Show me what you got.
Contact!
Come get it. I'm the GOAT, you're not. Come and get it. You can be my
Max Verstappen
Come and get it.
claims title number 3.
Another sprint, another win for Max Verstappen, but my word, did he have to work for it. A thrilling sprint with McLaren in the hunt, with great moves all the way through the field. It was a brilliant and exhilarating way to start Saturday here in Spielberg. And to run you through it all in your post-show, myself, Will Buxton, Davide Valsecchi, Jolyon Palmer down here in pit lane. Guys, what a great race that was. What a joyous start to the contest as well. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, corner after corner after corner. Just brilliant, Davide.
As soon as I saw the move of Lando Norris, I thought, come on, this has to be the move of the season. Because he was so far away and he just pulled that brake so deep in turn 3 that he surprised me and surprised Max Verstappen. But then when Verstappen responded, just then, when Verstappen responded, come on, was so brave that move. There was so tiny space. He shuffled on the left and then boom, completely in the inside at the braking in downhill of turn 4. So easy to miss that brake to go on the gravel like he did Norris in free practice, but was just perfect. Yeah, amazing move, amazing stuff.
And Jolyon, the reaction of Verstappen. Yeah. To respond the way that he did without DRS, to take that move back, to take that position back. You know, he's been maligned for spending so much time on his sim at home and even at races when he's not in the F1 cockpit. But that natural reaction, that ability to see it, to make it stick, it's so instinctive. He's such a great wheel-to-wheel racer.
He's driving so well at the moment. And these are just minor moments where I still think Lando's underestimating Max in this fight. He took the place. It was genius from Lando up at turn 3, from far back, got the car stopped, didn't completely butcher the exit either, and then had the DRS. But he didn't expect Max to send it back. He thought he'd wait for the next chance with the DRS on the next lap, and he underestimated him in the moment.
I was shocked that Lando left a barn door open on the inside at 4. Like, surely you make him go the long way round.
I don't know, because sometimes in that corner, it's easy to do the same maneuver that did the Sainz at the beginning or Russell on the outside. So it's more common to have an overtake on the outside line when you are so tight. So you cover the inside, but you don't go over the white line completely on the inside. If no, you cannot turn anymore. So yeah, from my point of view, it was positioned well. But the gap that for us is tiny, for Verstappen is like huge, and he make it easy when for us is impossible. So that is the standard of the driver.
How many times does Max have the inside line and not exit the corner ahead? Never. If you give him the inside, he will go for a lunge. Maybe he'll force you off the road, maybe there'll be something, but he will always exit the corner ahead. It's happened for years and years.
He did an astonishing job. What a beautiful battle, a clean battle as well. Just phenomenal. 3 of the best drivers in the sport on prime form. Alex Brundle, I know you, like us, enjoyed every moment of that, mate.
I really did. I really did. I've been replaying this a couple of times. Really interesting stuff going on here. Outstanding driving in all directions. Lando, as you say, guys, coming from miles back here, this is such a beautifully judged application of the brake, because he gets the McLaren here and manages to keep Verstappen just on his left-hand side here. Textbook block pass. What he's trying to do is stop Verstappen coming back up the inside, which of course he eventually does, but from so far back, it's so difficult to get your McLaren on point. Verstappen gets back up the inside, but the McLaren had a little bit better traction throughout the whole race, I think, especially early on. Verstappen without the DRS, as you say, Norris with the DRS. And I think Norris here thinks, look, I've got DRS again. I've passed the detection point behind. I'm going to sprint away. But we know how much Lando likes to fiddle with the energy system in that McLaren. I think he may have used quite a lot of it, heading up the hill to try to get the move done on Verstappen. He's also dishing out the toe on what's a deceptively long run down to turn 4, looks in the outside mirror and then can't see him. And as you say, leaves this gap on the inside. He said, I left the door open like an amateur. I think that's probably a bit harsh on himself, but it is a big gap for a driver like Max Verstappen to come through. Verstappen returns the favour. Beautiful feel for the brake pedal. Puts Norris, of course, well offline. So you've got those two lead cars that have both been offline in this stage. Piastri takes advantage, and you get this situation between the two McLarens where Norris is not happy, having been offline, that he has the grip to go charging back up the inside of his teammate. Look how much ground Norris loses because he's been offline through the middle of turn 4. But outstanding driving between the two of them. I think, though, as a result of this, McLaren letting Verstappen off the hook a little bit because Piastri didn't quite have the pace, did he, to make the move later on in the race.
Alex, I'm going to pick up that point because I think you're absolutely right. Oscar Piastri, guys, did not have the pace today. And Lando, he had the bite, he had the pace, he had the instinct. He had the lead of the Grand Prix. I'm probably going to make myself very unpopular with McLaren and McLaren's fans right now. But is today's sprint another indication of a lack of decision, a lack of proactivity on the pit wall? Oscar Piastri is not in the World Championship hunt for the driver's title. He started today 63 points behind Lando Norris. If you're going to fight for the World Championship, Lando is your man. You put all your eggs in his basket. Should Oscar ever have been fighting his teammate for P2, or should they have just let Lando have every go at Max until he's exhausted all his options? Because ultimately today, Lando's lost a point in the World Championship fight to Max Verstappen, which could, and we've seen it in championship seasons before, championships have been won and lost by a point.
Yeah, it is 71 points at the moment, so it feels like McLaren aren't thinking championship, and it maybe is a stretch for any of us to be thinking championship with the way that Red Bull and Max are running, but it's a long season, and you never know how things can turn around. I think for this sprint, it's a chance for them to let them play a little bit more. We are talking 1 point difference. We're not talking a Grand Prix win. And they started second and third. If they'd have worked together, maybe it could have helped. But effectively working together is letting Lando go and attack Max and having Oscar just sit and wait. Because at the moment, Piastri's not on the same level as Norris on a race with any sort of degradation. And in fact, qualifying at the moment, he's a little bit adrift as well. So it was a complicating factor, really, for them on the first lap and then again on lap 5.
Davide, for you, again, like...
For sure, if you have to attack Verstappen for the lead, you need to have a clear mind and not Piastri behind you that is pushing. That is clear. But really, I enjoyed so much the battle and thinking that Piastri at the end could got both of them and take the leadership just made a smile on my face so well.
He wasn't far from doing it.
Yeah, it was so
close.
tight.
Yeah.
So I mean, I really enjoyed so much that okay. For today is fine.
It was enjoyable.
For tomorrow, they need to think about something different for sure.
Listen, I loved it, but if you're being clinical and you're looking at a Red Bull and you've got to try and beat a team that is making perfect decisions every time, for me, this was another race of indecision from the pit wall. And when you make it, when you don't make a decision, you're making a decision. You're making a decision not to make the decision in that moment, and it's indicative of why they've lost the last 3 Grand Prix.
Okay, you're right, because if they wanted to maximise their result here, Lando was the better chance of winning. So I think on that regard, you're right. And I think in the Grand Prix, if that's in the first stint tomorrow, I think that, especially having learnt that from the sprint today, they have to be thinking about that. But I still think, could they have beaten Max? Possibly, but you've got to think about team harmony as well. Do you want to really not crush, but demoralise Oscar when he's up there in the top 3, having had a tricky weekend in Barcelona? He needs the chance to go racing with the big boys as well sometimes. And a sprint, maybe it's cost Lando 1 point today, maybe it's cost him 2. Maybe we'll all look back in Abu Dhabi and think, oh, it was so close, this was the day.
Yeah.
I doubt it, and I think it's important as a team to keep both drivers happy. And Oscar's driving well. He's up against a teammate that is at the top of his game right now in Lando. It's nice on a sprint day that they can fight. And they still finished second and third as a team. So I think you've got to balance not just the ruthlessness, which Red Bull do, and they will give everything to Max and get Sergio out of the way when they need to. McLaren have got two competitive drivers, and they've got to balance that a little bit as well, I think.
Oscar surely knows he's not the lead driver, though. Oscar surely knows that Lando is the lead
But remember
driver.
Monaco. He was the lead driver then.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
it's not always the case.
Yeah.
It is in this run, but it'll go the other way again.
For sure, thinking about the driver philosophy, it's a bit disappointing because I thought that the move that Lando had on Verstappen was a champion move. But then the response of Verstappen was like a 3-time world champion move, you know?
Absolutely.
So high level, and then the response was a huge level. I mean, top in the history of Formula One.
Andrea, a great job from your drivers today. P2, P3, but there was the lead at 1 point. Did you feel you had the sprint win in you today?
Well, the lead was for a few meters, but we know that when you approach corner 3 in that position, you are exposed to going a little bit long. In fairness, I have to say today the racing was very fair, great. I think it was entertaining. Oscar, Lando, and Max gave really good spectacle, and hats off to Max. I think he defended his position in a great way, because here in Austria you are so exposed to the DRS that it's not easy to understand exactly where to place your car, where to use your battery, and he did it very well. So well done to Max, well done to Oscar and Lando, and all promising for a good race tomorrow.
So the strategy for the race was obviously to let them fight, Oscar and Lando, and they had a really nice, fair fight. What do you think for tomorrow then? Because Max got away in the end. There was 4 seconds between them. Do you have to work together more in the Grand Prix to try and beat Max?
Well, if that was first stint of the race, definitely we would have thought that some strategic options. Because first of all, the degradation was high, and not necessarily you want to carry on with tires that are that degraded. And if you have two cars so close to the lead, then you may want to split the strategy. So I think there wasn't much to do because it was a sprint race, but in a race there would be more options.
Do you have to start being ruthless with your strategy? We talk about Red Bull and the perfection that they exhibit week in, week out. If you find yourself in a championship hunt against Red Bull and Max Verstappen, 1 point can make all of the difference.
You're talking about eventually
Potentially switching them or not having Oscar attacking Lando?
We will think about it later on.
Okay.
We will think about it later on. I think Oscar gained his position in, he deserved, because he did a good maneuver. Somehow Lando opened the door, but it's all racing, and if we need to influence this racing, we will do it later on. I think it's just too early.
Lovely stuff.
Do you think there is a technical explanation in why it was much easier for the driver overtaking the first few laps of the race with fresh tires than at the end? We saw Norris on Piastri, we saw, I think, Hamilton on Sainz. I mean, they were close, but not able to try this attacking brake. And
I think it was the same in Barcelona, no? When Max was in condition to attack Russell at the start of the race, and then Lando actually was stuck behind it. When you have this transition from the tires, from the start to stabilization, I think there's more variability as to where you are with grip, and you have more options in terms of how you use the tires, or how you, to some extent, abuse the tires a little bit. And also the drivers is like, first couple of laps, high fuel, there's just more variation. But after 3-4 laps, I think things tend to settle. So that's why we see more action at the start of the stint, or in particular the start of the first stint.
We're going to get in the way of the F2 teams here, so we're going to let you go, Andrea. We know there's a huge amount of work you have to do between the sprint and qualifying itself. Great to see that front wing working, and congratulations on getting the second one here in time for sprint qualifying. What an amazing job from the team. Looked like it did its job. Yeah?
Yes.
Good. All right.
All right, thank
Good
you.
luck this afternoon.
Congratulations.
Thank you,
Ferrari.
Andrea. Much appreciated having Andrea Sell on the show. And now we can hear from the Ferrari guys. We'll start with Leclerc.
Hey, Charles, epic start, and at least it felt like a better day for you overall. But how did you feel about the pace of the car and going forward?
Happy with the first lap. It was nice, but then the rest of the race has been very difficult, managing brake temperatures and just not enough pace in the car. So yeah, I feel like I want to try something this afternoon to just maybe risk it of it being worse, but can it be worse than P7, P8? I don't think so. So I think there's probably more to gain by going, by trying something. So that's probably the route I'll take for this afternoon.
Best luck. Thanks, Charles. Hey, Carlos, good start, and the pace of the car looked good early on. Were you a bit disappointed that things kind of tailed off after?
Yeah, it was a very strong start. Good move around George, but then we started facing some brake issues at the first few laps with the lift and coast. Managing the brakes, we lost the DRS of the McLarens, which in the end it meant we had to give DRS to George, and George managed to pass us. Then trying to stay close to him, I think the Mercedes were just a tenth quicker than us this weekend so far. Managed to keep Lewis behind, but I was like this all race, so hopefully we can make the car 1/10 faster for quali and the race tomorrow and shift that little advantage they have.
Best luck with that.
Thank you.
Fascinating thoughts from both of the Ferrari drivers there. Leclerc, I think, with a fantastic start and up to P7 at the end was an amazing run from him, and Carlos with that beautiful move. Ultimately, he got repassed again, but a great drive from him, hoping for a little bit more pace come this afternoon. Guys, I want to talk very quickly about two guys that weren't in the points today. We'll talk about the other point scorers in a little bit. Magnussen and Stroll. Magnussen, great start up from P11 into the P9, and Lance Stroll making the moves to finish in the top 10. I thought both had a really impressive day.
Yeah, but impressive weekend for Magnussen. Yep. Mega race. But after a sprint qualify yesterday, that surprised me. 11th, his teammate Hülkenberg, the chosen one in the Team Sauber for Audi next season, for Audi in the 2026, 17th. And today, great start, and then it was just quicker than Alpine. So it's going to be good also for tomorrow because there are chance of points for them.
We've talked of the progression of Alpine, but also making the moves past them today was Lance Stroll, who's had the pace on Fernando Alonso. We were saying pre-race, one of the greatest drivers of all time in this sport. And Lance has got him covered this weekend.
Lance has done well. Aston Martin are getting no points again, and they're in the midfield, but I guess we've got to get used to where they are now. I just more wonder what's going on with Fernando, because it's not the typical fighting for every single position Fernando that we're used to. He seems like he's losing a little bit of motivation in this part of the season, I think. When there's a chance of points or a podium, he is there. But the way that he just sort of fell backwards in the race as well, there was quite a big difference between them. You have to say well done to Stroll for achieving the better result. But yeah, Fernando just doesn't seem quite himself right now.
He did finish down in P16. Hülkenberg finished 14th and has an investigation after the sprint for passing off track. Let's talk a little bit more, or we can have a look at that apparently. Let's have a little look at this, riding on board with Hülkenberg. And yes, just running him off. So there we go. That'll be looked at by the stewards later. Now, we were talking about Ferrari, their need to make these kind of little incremental changes, because Mercedes once again looked, certainly in the hands of Russell, super competitive today.
See, and to be honest, Sainz had this move at the beginning of the race that was phenomenal. Outside line on turn 4, not an easy one, and also very risky, because if you miss that corner, then you are in the gravel and you lose every places. But then it seems that in pace they were struggling a bit. Sainz complained that he was saying that McLaren 1/10 faster. Yeah, but I'm a bit worried for them that also Mercedes in the last few races, they are always there fighting for Ferrari, and most of it they are in front of them. So probably the race pace was not perfect. They were immediately very quick and then confident driver and feeling the car. But then they were dropping a bit, and it seems that they were not fast enough to fight for the podium.
It's the same theme as the last couple of races. They're very evenly matched, but Mercedes now just have the slight edge. It was the same in Barcelona. They're running together the whole way through, but it's just a 10th here, 10th there. the move that Sainz put on Russell was such a nice move, deep on the brakes, round the outside. We've seen so many times the driver on the inside just drifts out and clips the one on the outside into a spin. So many times. I was bracing for impact when Carlos went for it, but he was committed and gave Ferrari a chance. But like you say, Davide, they don't have the pace right now to hold on. It's tight, but it's just going to Mercedes.
I've got to say, really impressed with all those moves at turn 4 today. Nobody ended up in the gravel, no silly squeezing, no pushing people out.
The racing standard is really good at the moment.
Really high.
Yeah,
really
these guys, young guys, because you have Norris, you have Piastri, you have Russell, you have Sainz. I mean, you have Verstappen, for sure that the level is so high now in Formula One that is impressive. I mean, the respect that you have when you brake so deep on the inside, to don't force the other, open the line, and to don't force him in the gravel. I mean, you have to be a champion to realize that you have your rival there, and to let him have the space to finish the overtake. I mean, well done, guys.
Is there an element to this, guys, that we kind of exist in an era in Formula One where so many of the drivers are actually friends and are mates off track? You know, you talk about, you know, your Russells and your Norrises and your Leclercs, Max Verstappen. You know, all of these guys, they've grown up together. They've been from karting all the way through the junior formulas. They've been racing each other. They're friends off track, obviously rivals on track. But is there an extra awareness in that case of, do you know what? I'm not going to be I'm not going to do anything sketchy here because, yeah, I'm fighting him, but he's my mate. I'm not going to go beyond that. No,
I don't think so. You have mates when you were racing and you were always really kind to someone.
No, I'm not talking about kind, but like, you're not going to do that idiot move where you edge them out of space and you leave them the gap.
If you have a chance to do that and it's within the rules, I would still do that. If someone's trying to go around the outside of you and you're ahead of them, it doesn't matter if it's my mate or my biggest rival. They're going
He's
wide.
Gone.
Probably the fact that all the cars, they are so close together in lap time, and so the field is so compact on top, probably give you the worries and the thinking then, if I force you out of the track today, I'm worried that tomorrow you're
do the same.
Yeah. So maybe there is this sort of respect. Consider that the field is so compact on top that you don't want to go over the limit, worries about your reaction.
And they're not all mates. Some of them, they're friendly with each other. There's a lot of respect amongst the field. It's such a high-level talent in Formula One, especially the sharp end right now. But when you consider last race for the lead was Verstappen and Russell, these guys were not friendly in Baku last year when there was a hole in the side of the Red Bull. They're not necessarily the best of mates, but they still raced respectfully with each other. And it just leads to nice racing and entertaining.
Nice segue. Producer Joe's been trying to throw to a George Russell interview for about the last 5 minutes, so let's hear from George Russell.
George, good to see you. I know obviously the start wasn't ideal and you lost the position, but got it back. How did the pace of the car feel thereafter, and what's that mean for the rest of the weekend?
Yeah, the car was feeling okay, to be honest. I think it was in line with our expectations. We know we're probably about a tenth and a bit behind McLaren and probably 2 tenths behind Max at the moment, same as what we saw in Barcelona. But the good news was ahead of Ferrari, ahead of them yesterday. Let's see what this afternoon and tomorrow brings. But as a team, we're making huge progress. But I think McLaren are sort of making similar strides. But when we compare to the likes of Aston or teams lower down the order, we've made a big step since the start of the season. So we've got to keep on pushing and hopefully more to come.
Great stuff. Good luck. Thank you.
So George saying, got to keep on pushing, but they have made great strides this season. Jolien, what do you take out of this morning, and how much are you looking forward to quali this afternoon?
Yeah, very much so. I still think it's going to be so crucial. Track position between Norris and Verstappen can be decisive. McLaren should be benefiting from having 2 cars in the mix. I don't know if they they didn't benefit really in the sprint apart from more points. But I think that pole position in qualifying is going to be critical.
Davide?
Yeah, now there is the rules that gives you the chance to change the setup. I'm thinking about if someone of the top of the grid is going to change something to be more competitive and to try to beat Verstappen for pole position. Can be interesting.
For me, the most interesting thing out of this morning, I think, was what Andrea said when we were talking to him in the pit lane and asked him, are you going to be ruthless in terms of favouring one driver? He said, we'll think about that later. I don't think they can. if they're in the fight as much as we think they are, they have to think about that now. Here, folks, is where you can catch everything else over the course of this weekend. It is Grand Prix qualifying and the Grand Prix itself left to run here in Austria. Quali pre-show coming your way, 3:30 local time on race day itself. Your pre-show, 2 p.m. for the Formula One Qatar Airways Austrian Grand Prix. And that is it from your post-sprint show. I've loved the morning. I cannot wait for this afternoon, guys. Thank you so much for your insight, as always. It was so much fun. Join us this afternoon for Grand Prix qualifying here in the sweltering heat in Spielberg. We'll see you then. But for now, from all of us, a very warm goodbye.